Speaking of New Orleans, SEC.
Yes. Thank you.
This is the transition.
This is the transition. So it is that time of year where we transition to a little bit more basketball talk, Roy.
Yay.
And look, the Big 12, not quite as good as it was a year ago, but there are 4 more teams. Mm-hmm. And Iowa State, like, if you look at what teams are better or the same, Houston's the same.
Yeah.
They're still crazy dominant and good. I think Kansas is a little bit better, but they're
beatable.
They're beatable. Yeah, they're very beatable. Baylor is the same, although I think that they lost last night. But what, you think they're worse?
I think they're worse.
You think they're worse
than last year? Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if you want to chalk it up to their defense is just,
inconsistent
and at times bad.
Yeah.
I think they can score a little bit better than they could last year.
Yeah.
And especially when everybody's healthy, if Jeremy Roach is in, I could go on and on about Baylor, but I think without Misi and some other guys, I think their defense is at times horrendous, actually.
Yeah. I do think, if you saw it last night, what did Wright and Edgecombe score the last 25 points of the game?
Yeah, and they're unbelievable, and Edgecombe's going to be a top 5 pick, and Rob Wright may, hopefully he hangs around another year, but he may sneak into the first-round grade.
I think God gave Baylor a gift on that one by not making him tall.
Yeah, you think?
Yeah, they made a guy, he's going to have to play a couple years, so the NBA goes, all right, we'll take a chance on, on –
shooting numbers have to get more consistent with him, but he's an unbelievable player. Yeah.
But the NBA has, and rightfully so, they have a little guy thing where you know what, this big guy who can't shoot from 3 feet away, we'll take a chance on him. But listen, little buddy, hey buddy, listen, we really left your work ethic and you got a great shot, but you're 6'1".
I mean, Reed Shepherd can't get on the floor for the Rockets.
Yeah.
That's a whole other thing, but it's the Amen Thompson thing, really. He's 6'7" athletic freak that cannot. I mean, the shot coming out of his hands from 3 looks like a grenade.
Yeah,
but he's awesome. So it's just we'll take the guy that runs and jumps high.
Yeah, and then they're listen, we appreciate. Pierre Jackson had an unbelievable career in the G League,
China, all over Europe,
all over the place. He scored in a preseason game one time playing against other NBA players. He scored 58 points.
He got in for Dallas a couple of years ago, 10 years ago or whatever, where he was he dropped 15 points in 10 minutes, and people were like, what is this guy? And then they sent him back down in the G League.
The dude could score.
Yeah.
But he wasn't 6 feet tall. So, he's all of 5'10", 5'11".
Yeah.
Maybe he might have been 6'0". Pierre's not tall. Mm-mm. But he could score, and he was, but, that's where I think what's going to happen with Rob Wright, where it's look at the little, their thing is this little guy, look at him. He's going through all the big guys. That's cute. We'll give him a shot, but
yeah,
he's not going to grow. So that's maybe where Baylor benefits there, is where VJ Edgecombe was made in a lab.
Yeah.
So it's
do you want Dwayne Wade? We got him.
When you create a player on the video game, you're okay, I would like him to be 6'6". I would like him to be this muscular and this fast and jump this high.
Yeah, 99 jump.
Yeah, it's just all sliders all the way to the end. So, but I did want to compare it to the SEC. And this is something we talked about on the main show about. So the SEC has all this extra money compared to everybody else. The Big Ten has it too. But the SEC has been, their basketball, they've had, Kentucky's won national titles, Florida's won national titles, Alabama and Auburn, lately it's been better, but they had a long time where it was, and this is what I find hilarious, it was an insult in certain parts of the SEC to call someone a basketball school. If you were, I remember being at a Florida FSU game
but wouldn't you agree that they have
basketball school it's an insult, and you're wait, but don't you want to be good at everything?
But wouldn't you argue that they have if not the basketball school, one of?
Well, they have
the five basketball schools.
They have Kentucky, but Kentucky was fine with that because they were, you know what? Like this is basketball here. But when you were if you chanted basketball school to Alabama, Florida, Tennessee, Auburn, they were like, well, that's, I don't know why you'd say that. We're down on our luck right now, but I mean, the basketball team's good. It makes us happy. Why are you saying you were a basketball school? Well, why are you insulted by it?
Don't put in the newspaper that I'm a basketball school.
Yeah, it's fine. Be a basketball school. Be an everything school. But because they have all this extra money, that they're making on their media deal, this is what is going on in the SEC this year is ridiculously special. And even though they might be good for years to come, I don't think you're going to repeat this year anytime soon because they have 16 teams in the league and
10 are in the top 20.
Yeah, and 13 of them are legitimately good.
Yeah.
Legitimately really good. And then there's 3 that are just kind of well, they're there. But even then, they're not even that bad. So,
Texas, they have all, they have these top recruits and stuff, but even then it's Texas could beat anybody and they're quote unquote having a down year. They're unranked and they're towards the bottom end of the SEC, but they're going to sneak into the tournament. I wouldn't be surprised if they win a game in the tournament. I don't necessarily want to compare because the Big 12 has had more success, I believe, than the SEC in basketball over the last, anecdotally over the last 10 years.
Yeah, I'm going to say there's 3 teams in the SEC that will definitely not make the tournament, and that's LSU, Arkansas, and South Carolina. And Arkansas, I think, got foisted by Calipari. I think the game is totally
passing by.
Yeah.
And when they played Baylor, now Baylor's more down than I believe that they were. They played Baylor competitively, and Arkansas was ranked in the top 25 at the time when they played. So maybe that'll go on the Baylor resume. But you could tell that maybe they weren't top 25 ready whenever they played in Dallas at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, but look, Tennessee's 8th in the country. They're 4-4 in that league. I mean, that's how tough it is, and they're fantastic. Texas is going to wind up making the tournament. Georgia's probably going to wind up making the tournament, and Oklahoma will be the bubble team. So you're talking about 11 teams for sure, 10 locks in the tournament out of the 16. And look, that number used to be ridiculous, but now we have 16, 18, 17 team conferences. It's not that wild, but the SEC, here's the other thing that could happen, though, and the SEC better be careful of this because they've not really had this all that often. I think the Big 12 has been to its own detriment sometimes in the tournament because it's such a physical, brutal league.
Cannibalize itself.
By the time they get to the tournament, they're all so beat up. They've played so many tough games that, that team that's just locked in and hasn't played that many yet, and you've got, guys playing at 80% and just trying to be in the tournament, and their guys are all at 100, that's when they lose, right? Because you're the big bad wolf, and then you lose that 12-5, and that team's not necessarily better than you, but you've just the last 2 weeks of your year has been playing 6 really amazing teams, and then a tournament.
A tournament where they beat the crap out of each other even more.
Physically, they just you watch the Big 12 tournament, and it is an absolute street fight out there the whole time. And then they go and, they win their first round game against so-and-so state. But you can tell in the first half, they're like, I'm tired.
Yeah.
I'm
are shot.
Tired.
The flip side of the coin is that
I have scratches that won't heal.
Yeah, exactly. Been punched in the mouth.
Yeah.
The flip side of that coin is in or you would have the SEC over the past few years, who has been good, and Tennessee has been up there, and Kentucky has always had all the great players. Calipari will tout how many first-round picks that he's always had. But the flip side of that coin is that you get a Kentucky like last year, who has on paper the most talent. Well, they have two of the top 5 picks in the NBA draft with Reed and was it Castle?
Yeah,
yeah, and they're just not prepared for those teams because the schedule hasn't been as daunting.
No,
there's a give and a take to that. Not saying that Kentucky hadn't played tough teams when they went into those tournaments, but there's a give and a take. There's a good middle ground that I think that the Big 12 would need to find, and maybe it's the ACC.
Yeah,
but there's the SEC is running headlong into that. We just beat the mess out of each other all season.
Auburn's still winning, and they've been doing so without the best player in the country, in Johnny Broome. So that's how good things are right now.
Yeah.
For them.
Do you trust a Pearl team in the tournament though?
Here's the thing. I think the reason that Bruce Pearl loses games is not because he's not a good coach. It's because he's a bit of a jagweed, and there's karma for that. It's the same with Tennessee. It's it's maybe unfair to the players there, but they don't have the why am I playing? He was at Texas forever, and now is at Tennessee. Rick Barnes.
Yeah, they don't know that Rick Barnes has failed again in the tournament. I guess they do, but it's not on them that Rick Barnes has failed in the tournament. But do you trust Rick Barnes?
Johnny Broome is back. He's just coming off the bench, although he played 33 minutes last night. But yeah, but they did that for a while without him, and they're still they have one loss.
They're really
they're ridiculous. I think he makes the other team so geeked up to beat you. I'll never forget what he said about Davion Mitchell, where he was like, "Oh yeah, they recruited him off our roster and all this." Okay, well, you didn't do anything to keep him, and then now he decided not to sit. This is not transfer portal where you go and play right away.
He decided to leave and sit.
He decided to leave and sit because he wanted to be somewhere else more. That's not recruiting off the roster like it is now. That's a completely different thing. He decided that he and Jared Butler and
Maceo Teague.
Yeah, and Maceo, they were going to sit in a gym by themselves and not play in games and just work at it for a year and then come out. That's if people want to know what Baylor's been missing since then, it's that. It's that those guys had this trial by fire of, okay, you're gonna watch a good team out there, because the Baylor was really good before they got there. They were good. They got to number 1 in the country, and they're you're gonna see a good team, but you can't come in and help at all. You have to just sit there. And
I remember
you're gonna feel great. You're gonna shoot 1,000 shots a day, and they're all gonna go in, and they could all go in. It doesn't matter because of the rules. You can't come in this game and help them. That made that team pretty great.
I remember when I was still covering sports before I went into producing for a minute, and I was at a press conference. I believe it was 2019 when he had transferred in, and the rule was that I think that he was going to have to sit out, but there was maybe a chance that he could play if he got an exception or something like that. But ultimately, I think he ended up sitting out. And I remember asking Scott Drew about, Davion Mitchell, and he just his eyes lit up. He was just yeah, he's going to be really good. He's going to help us down the road. And I remember asking things can he help this season? And he's like, no, but just wait. And he was absolutely 100% right. And going back to what Baylor is missing now, it's the depth thing. In that the transfer portal, and it's not just Baylor, so I don't want to put this on him. At a press conference a few weeks ago, I think you can find it on Baylor's YouTube. I asked him about how they're navigating the transfer portal and NIL and building depth that way. Whereas guys come in now if they transfer and want to start and want to play 30 minutes a game. Mm-hmm. And that's just how the nature of the transfer portal works now. Because if you're transferring from a place that you were starting to go now be at a Baylor or a top-tier program, the idea is that you want to I could have stayed in Norfolk State and played 35 minutes a game or whatever and scored 30 points. But you mean to tell me that like I moved to not play? And that's sort of what he said the uphill battle was for not just Baylor, but for teams in general. Also, Baylor had like unlucky is kind of a harsh term, but a little bit like Yves Missi was not supposed to be a first-round pick.
No.
Like Jeremy Sohan was not supposed to be a first-round pick.
No, they've hit on two guys like that.
Yeah.
That they were planning on having for at least a couple years.
Yep.
That were so good that they didn't get to build on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
that's I mean, it's a good problem to have, but also it's like, hey, we can tout these first-round picks, but it's also like to the detriment of your program of being like, oh crap.
Okay.
Now I have to fill in.
That brings me to another thing. You want veteran players, but how veteran do you want them to be?
Yeah, like fifth-year transfers.
Because you want like a veteran team that's been together for a while. But I would posit to you that this year's Kansas team is an example of, well, maybe sometimes you need to let guys go, because I think DeJuan Harris has hit the wall of his effectiveness, and he didn't even play last night. And they won. They won. But Hunter Dickinson's good, but most 7-footers that are
fifth years in the league,
they're already in the league. So there's a reason he's not in the league.
There's a clear ceiling.
I mean, Grant, I know that there's he's making a ton of money at Kansas.
Yeah,
a ton of money, and good for him. I'm not saying he hasn't earned that money, but you do have to wonder, okay, if you're kind of content staying here, it's because you kind of know, or so they've told you. And most Kansas fans believe that Kansas's problem is not their newer guys. It's the fact that the older guys like KJ Adams, who came off the bench last night, and that was a way better thing, and he's coming off an injury. So, but like that, he needs to stay coming off the bench. He needs to be an enforcer off the bench, because Flory Badunga is a better scorer right now than KJ Adams is. And KJ, sometimes I think guys get into the summer workouts and they're like, you know what? The NBA guys told me I need to work on my jumper, so I'm going to get in this game and I'm going to shoot jumpers. You're like, okay, work on your jumper if you're going to be in the NBA, but if it's not going to be good, and this is, I think, this is on Bill Self and the coaches be like, look, no more jumpers. The coach we had from Oakland last year was hilarious when we had him on. And I said,
where he told what's-his-face to shoot, just only shoot threes?
Only shoot threes. I said, so you told him to only shoot threes. He's like, yeah, I yell at him when he shoots a layup. And I'm like, well, why would you? He's like, look, I have 4 other guys that can make layups.
Yeah.
I have this guy who can do that better than anybody in the country.
Is it Golke? Is that was it?
Yeah, Golke.
Yeah,
He's like,
Golke.
so
Yeah.
I'm not, he goes, look, I didn't get here by not knowing how things work. He's like, he's going to shoot threes. And, part of it is the fact that he's always going to shoot threes makes the defense have to react to the fact that he is standing outside, but he's not going inside.
Yeah.
So, somebody has to allow for him all the time, and he draws a lot of double teams because of that. So that's why they were able to do what they did, right? Because they've got this guy who's just going to shoot threes. He's going to make a ton of them, and the only thing you can maybe do is go throw a double team on him. Well, he also can pass
out of those double teams.
So
that his shot chart when he went viral after that game against Kentucky, his shot chart when somebody pulled it up was the funniest thing. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go look up Jack Golke from Oakland last year, and his shot chart it was like 200 threes and then 2 twos, I think, where we're breakaway layups or something like that.
2 little dots. And I think one of them was they got a steal, they just got a steal on an inbound, and he was just right there.
Yeah. So it's an unbelievable thing. It's you shoot threes.
Yeah, it would have been dumb to get the steal on the inbound,
run out,
and then run out. No, that's just wasting time. You're right there.
Yeah.
So and I don't know what brought, but what brought me about talking about
KJ
Oakland.
Adams or
KJ
whatever.
Adams. You have to force people to you're not shooting jumpers.
Yeah.
You are a layup and dunk guy. You're a layup and dunk guy. If you are more than 6 feet away, you can take it like a little hook, like a little short hook. But if you're more than 6 feet away and you shoot it, I'm going to hit you with this chair. Like, that needs to be, I mean, like, it needs to be a little Bobby Knight. Like, yes, you're coming at, like, you know, and I watched Bill Self last year do it in the game with Nick Timberlake.
That poor guy. Oh, my God.
Nick Timberlake got one missed shot. One missed shot. And if he missed a shot, and if he missed that shot because it was not a shot he should have taken, because he was, by nature, a chucker. And so if he missed one shot, he's coming out of the game. He could have gone in the game, caught a pass, taken that shot the next time that a substitute could happen. If Bill Self could have done a line change in hockey, like where you run by the bench and, like, you know, a guy jumps on and it jumps off.
Yank him off.
That's what he would have done. Like, he would have line changed him. But with KJ Adams, he didn't do that. Like, he's out there shooting jumpers, and you're like, come on, man. Like, make him not do that. Like, you're in charge, Bill. You can tell him, stop shooting jumpers. But part of it, though, is I think these 6th-year guys, a lot of them have unbelievable, like KJ Adams and DeJuan Harris have unbelievable work ethic. They are team guys. They are the shining example of how you should practice and prepare. They're not exact, but they're not, like, helping. You're rewarding them by starting them and playing these minutes because of that, but also you've got players who can do things and win more in the modern context than that.
I think the platonic ideal of what is what they've done at Houston. I mean, especially with Baylor fans will scoff, but especially with LJ Cryer and stuff, you know, they got him as a sophomore, I believe, or as like a redshirt junior. So he had, or a COVID junior. So he had 3 more years to play. I think that's what you got to start doing. You got to start taking these, for anybody, you got to start taking these flyers on these guys that, you know, are good, but maybe underperformed or just younger guys is what I'm saying. I don't think that you can, in modern college basketball, you can field a true dynasty or make multiple championship runs with, we're going to get the 5-star freshman, but then we're going to backfill with 4th and, you know, seniors and 5th-year seniors and even 6th-year seniors. Like, the not the chemistry, the calculus just doesn't work there.
I think you need some sort of middle ground.
Yeah, you have to get guys that are going to be in there for, and it may be bad one year, but the next year, hopefully the chemistry comes together. And it's not to say that you don't take the 5-star players. That would be asinine. Like, what do you mean VJ Edgecombe wants to come to bit? Sure, absolutely. Like, you don't not do that. But what I'm saying is that you have to I think you have to try to get those 5-star prospects, maybe some lower 4-star prospects, hope that they stick around a little bit, and then you can kind of backfill with juniors and maybe a 5th-year senior. But like backfilling with 2 5th-year seniors and you know, a 6th-year senior that's a journeyman, I just don't think works. And I mean, we've seen, like, who's been the national champion? UConn. Like, all those UConn teams, I feel like they've been together for at least 2 to 3 years. And I know they're constantly bringing in younger and younger talent also because they're UConn. But the guys on that last championship team were sophomores, juniors. What was Klingon? Klingon was a sophomore or junior. You know what I'm saying? I just think that the way that you have to build now, the calculus is different than from what it used to be for college basketball.
Yeah, no, it really is.